Yo, 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 folks, shizzle and so forth. It's time for yet another insane in the brain edition of Rapping the Forums. Yes, indeed. What do we do in Rapping the Forums? We take some of the worst threads from the forums, we turn them into hip-hop styling, and the world implodes from the sheer stupidity of it all. Yes. This is great. This is really good. From Diabolix, from Boulderfist. And he asks, are Blizzard racist? Oh, noes. They be oppressing. It's a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Blizzard racism. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't think of any major lore NPC or anything like that is black. Even it doesn't show much. They do have some attachment to medieval design in their lore for humans that kind of dictates something automatically for them. It's nothing racist on their part, just tidbits of what lore remains. Interrogator Vision asks, no, he's just an LMAO. Racist reported. I was saying if that's someone that clearly makes an effort twice a week to get some colour, is town racist on the Orcs black? They do the hammer time like it's never going out of style word. You know I'm talking about black humans, but good job trying to make a serious post into a joke fest. Well, if you roll a human, you can make him pretty damn dark. I would say closer to the Middle Eastern than African. Just my 2 cents. So Blizzard is racist and supports terrorism /cap/boycott. Well, yeah, but me making some random black hair. Name black people, lol, does it change the fact that Blizzard has excluded black people from being a major lore NPC? You can, but if you make it a rogue and name it, gee, what the hell is that? I don't even know. I'm offended that you don't believe I'm dark-skinned. Well, this is odd, tan or black, it doesn't matter, at least it should. None of this should matter in the first place. If he's black, there's proof that Blizzard isn't racist because they chose to put him in with any sort of fuss. If he's tan, it's still proof of no racism. Because even though it isn't directly related to racism, it shows that they are perfectly fine with people looking different. To also note, and in a slight link with the hammer time remark, this game is kind of biased on racism too. If you think about it, at this point, there is little reason for the Alliance to be fighting the Horde about, aside from that fact that they just don't like each other, the human nations of Azeroth, the European. In the pseudocultural decoration, black people are from Africa and didn't have a presence in the source material /basic history FTW. Please take a look at the lore to another forum. This is a serious discussion about the lack of black major or NPCs. So does that mean China is a racist nation, or we now call boycott Scandinavia? So is that due the cousin of the nagger that stole my bike? Is it the cousin of the nagger that stole my bike? Oh, it's a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. So when is this Africa-based content that you're implying is just going to be released? On the side note, it seems only humans speak American English. My dad made a black paladin with blonde hair and blue eyes named Jorga. He's a regular UN. No, this is you, trolling the forums. You got Nagra and the Macau just talks in general. Oh, I guess it could count as the black, so wow. This is no way a troll post. I am pretty angered in the fact that you think my sympathy of the black race is some kind of joke. People act like you make white people look bad. I'm implying no such thing. Again, the human nations of Azeroth, all of them are rather obvious pseudo-European in culture, both material and social. No Africans required. What about the fact they all have an American accent? Maybe you're just being racist, won't even acknowledge that orcs are black. You made me sick. What about it? Not to sidetrack or anything, but the most racist person on the planet are black people. They're the first ones to make sure we know when we didn't include a black person in the mix. They're also the first to exclude a white dude from everything they do, but I don't want to get into a heated debate. All this thread will be deleted in no quick seconds, so I just want to make sure you choose your words wisely on these issues. You need to take your hate of black people off these forums and back to one of your clan rallies. Wow, Azeroth is a history of various races, coming through from random portals from other worlds. Maybe the original humans were a group of Americans, mostly white, who then spread across the world. I don't hate black people, I hate any racist. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, every race is guilty of it. I was just gathering your you make white people look bad bull. S? That's a very rude word. The law in this regard is important to the topic. It dictates certain things within the game world and how they are handled if you want to address racism. within the game. Why not include the orcs and such? Because there is a very large aspect of racism cast between the Alliance and the Horde and how they interact. The fact that there is no important human that is black in WoW could be little more than a lazy act on Blizzard's part. The rift cast between the Alliance races and the Horde races in this case was done on purpose to cause tension. However, this means it was pretty much a purposeful act of racism. No, this does not in any way mean the Blizzard employees are racist. It was used as a motivator within the game to spur on the conflict, but simply because someone thought any one race was more deserving or otherwise. Trolling about racism is a very pointless thing to do that will likely get you banned. Talking about it in a civilized fashion, however, is a nice way to learn things and deal with any possible issues. I'm sorry, when you go on these forums on a hate-mongering rant, it just seems too far. Yes, indeed, folks, you're tuning in to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. That was the horrible sounds of rap in the forums. And if I haven't lost hundreds of listeners from that, I will be very surprised. The Nihilum interview coming up in 15 minutes' time. Stay tuned, also the rest of the night after the Nihilum interview. Octail and Hordak versus the World, our general gamer show for WoW players. And after that, the Weekend Report, which consists of me singing with Lido and Terp, so that's really, really horrible, I know. But never mind. Stay tuned for all of that coming up. Oh, yes. Anyone that misses the Nihilum interview, and it would be very silly to do so, the interview will be available for download after the interview finishes. Oh, yes. Good stuff. Right, I have one more topic to cover before I hand over to someone with a better internet connection to deal with this. Right. Now, this week's Second Wind. Yes, I did say. Second Wind. What's going to be happening next week? The topic which I'm going to be covering... We're going to start it off this week, and a little bit starting off next week. Second Wind. Many rep grinds, left side, even side. Are rep grinds the only true form of progressive content? And before I launch into my little tirade about this, I have a few opinions on various different things, specifically hybrid classes. Some very good stuff here. Now, Mr. Kazi, who happens to be the enhancement shaman in my guild, he says this. Well, I myself am a hybrid, i.e. a shaman. I expect enhancement and I absolutely love it, and I'm accepted into most parties because of all my totem buffs and my battle shout-like buff, i.e. Unleashed Rage with a 10% AP, and for Bloodlust. And you know that yourself, it's an awesome buff and it really helps on bosses. I also like playing a hybrid because I can DPS pretty decently, but I also have the ability to heal myself if I should pull aggro. And I'm always good for a few backup heals if the healer is somehow unavailable to heal or overwhelmed. I know by now that I love the Shaman class. It's the only thing I ever played fully, and it's my only level 70. And I played it since the beginning of time, with now 115 days played. And I can only say I've loved every single day of it, and I never trade it in for anything. Yeah, I can officially say it is incredibly useful. Now, however, I have people that are most certainly disagreeing with my views on hunters, and they're saying this. This is from Horde Hit Squad. His name is Hanno. He's from Mazrugo. And he says, I must say I heavily disagree with your opinion about the usefulness of hunters. I play a priest on Mazrugo EU, and I happen to see you around /lick for the win. Oh, Lord. Ugh. On topic, I used to play a hunter, and with my guild, Horde Hit Squad, I took him all the way to Nefarian. I found that a hunter is the class that is most depending on the attention you are paying. You could do /assist MT and /follow MT and go fetch a cup of coffee, but your DPS would of course be insignificant to mages. But I found that if I paid attention by using the right rotations, I can out-DPS any mage. Also, a hunter is about doing his DPS safe. Sure, a mage can do DPS, but does a DPS have 100% aggro wipe with a mere 30 seconds cooldown? No, but we do have one with a 5-minute cooldown and passive aggro reduction. In my knowledge, invisibility has a 5-minute cooldown. Yep, just like Vanish. If a hunter has played well, he has got, for instance, Freezing Trap and Feign Death Disengage. Yes, disengage if he gets aggro. If you've got a bad hunter in your group, you will probably be in for an hour or two of wiping, but a well-played hunter can be one of the best additions to your group. Lastly, there is a new skill you might have heard about called Misdirection. Misdirection directs the aggro of the next 3 attacks to somebody else, which is very good at fights like Blackheart the Inciter. Yeah, I kind of agree with that to some degree, but again, it's not really talking about raid content there. I would agree that hunters are useful in 5-mans, but when it comes to stuff that really has, freezing traps aren't going to help on and all that kind of thing, it's really quite tricky. Right, we've got some more emails about this. Matthew Breed says this. I have multiple level 70 characters, of which my main is a feral druid, and most of the time, I seem to have me as main tank, apart from a couple of boss encounters where I go back into my rest of gear and heal. Trouble we have found, the reason I am main tank, though, is that a feral druid can pull aggro off any main tank without trying, and I assume he's being a DPS Feral Druid. Also, my gear is a lot easier to get hold of for tanking. One thing I found, though, is that in Heroics as a Feral tank, that without a Paladin to give Blessing of Salvation to the rest of my group, you have to give me a lot longer to build aggro than a Prot Warrior needs. I assume that's the way that it works. I believe, isn't aggro multiplicative as a Feral Druid, whereas it's additive with a tank, which means that early on a tank is better, but over the long run, a Feral Druid can build more aggro. Now, he goes on. And yeah, Shaman now rock in any raid, and we can try and take one or two from melee and casters. Also, Paladins seem to have become the best single-target healer as far as mana efficiency goes. It's a very interesting set of information that we're being given there. I've got a few more things on Hunters here. Mr. Phaethos from Balnazar EU, he's a level 70 mage, says, while I agree that Hunters do lack a lot of raid viability, there are a few things which can make them worthwhile. Scorpion Sting is a minus 5% chance to hit, and that could save a fair bit on healing. Ferocious Inspiration, when they pet crits, everyone in the group gets plus 3% to damage on all abilities. True Shot Aura, of course, plus attack power, Aspect of the Wild, plus nature resistance, and Misdirection, the best aggro tool for the start of a fight. Expose Weakness, a survival talent which has a 30% chance to apply a debuff on crit, which increases the AP of all attackers by 25% of the Hunter's total agility. Just a heads up on the buffs and Hunter tools can supply to the raid. Fact, however, cannot be denied that they do need a bit of tweaking. Yeah, definitely agree with that. I've got another one here from Ragnar A.T. Morgan. And he says, Shadow Priests, my life as a Shadow Priest. Shadow Priests have been buffed very well indeed, and they work very well together with Paladins, but I still meet OMG, L2P, and reroll raid spec when I go in pogs at different instances. I'll meet people that consider Shadow Priests useless, and they want me removed to be replaced with someone that can do decent DPS. Funny thing is, I own them on the DPS meters, even though I'm a Shadow Priest. Now, I can attest to this, because when I was playing my Arcane spec, I was having to fight with my Shadow Priest who had similar gear. I was always beating him, but not by much. This is my personal experience of it. I think I can probably do it now with my fire spec, since I don't go all the time with it. But I do see his point there, most definitely. And he continues. He says, I'm Shadow Priest, and that actually means they should be nerfed in PvE, because it's not fair for a Warlock when they outget DPS by a Shadow Priest. But then again, you can also argue that Shadow Weaving is a buff to a Warlock anyway, and they are two classes which have a particular synergy. At least that's my honest opinion on it anyway. They have something of a synergy with Shadow Weaving and Curse of Shadows. They can benefit each other. Now, he goes on, concerning Hunters. They are still usable for kiting, emergency trapping, and similar, so I would not go so far as calling them totally useless. I do, however, feel bad for Shamans, because at least in my previous guild we would prefer a Druid, Pally, or Priest healer, and then there were not really a spot for Shaman healers. And if we were to bring a Shaman, it would probably be at the cost of a Rogue. Well, rest of Shamans are a little bit of a different case. I've never used one, particularly. They have uses. Mana Tide is one example, although now with Shadow Priest being an exceedingly good way of getting mana back, and Horde having access to Paladins with Judgment of Wisdom, it's perhaps not so much of an issue. That's my honest opinion on it anyway, that's what I'm saying. So, rest of Shamans, what else do they have? They've got Earth Shield, which is useful, and they've of course got the Chain Heal, and Chain Heals are great. There's no two ways about it. Chain Heal is an exceedingly good way of healing multiple targets in a group that's getting battered. And it's a very mana-efficient way of doing it as well. But no, I'd say Shamans have definitely got some use in there, definitely. I've got one last opinion that I'm going to have from a Tankardin, and he says this. He says, Hey TB, Artenis again here. My highest level character, Artenis, a level 60 human paladin, has been spec'd into a tanking build back before the Burning Crusade hit, and I was running Black Rock Depths. I originally had a mix of Retribution and a slight bit of Holy, but a guild member had given me ideas regarding a prot spec after we watched my fighting style. Afterwards I respec'd into that spec, which I'm still using, and a week later I went into BRD with him. During which, due to the spec I was using, I was able to hold aggro on groups of mobs exceedingly well, allowing our mage and warlock to AoE like mad while containing aggro. I do know the strengths and weaknesses behind the tanking, and I do know a warrior can hold aggro on a singular target much better than I can. I also know my DPS, while good for a paladin, is pathetic in comparison to other classes. I do know also that our judgments can be a nice boon to boss fights, whether it's judgment of light, wisdom, etc. Now, in my opinion, I think Blizzard has done a nice job regarding making the hybrids valid for other classes. Before, I disliked Artenis as a character because of the fact that in the endgame situation I'd be a healer and nothing else. Now I'm beginning to work on a Blood Elf Paladin on the Thunderhorn server simply because I enjoy being a Tankardin and that spec is valid. Yeah, I'll go with that. I really will. I've seen and I have had an exceedingly good Tankardin in my guilds. Shame he was an emo kid, but yeah, he could hold aggro on multiple targets really well, and I like that. It's a very valuable thing to have. Right, now, I've got to get on to the second win topic before I do shout-outs this time. We have a total of, by the looks of it, 5.5 minutes. 5.5 minutes before the Nihilum interview, so I'm going to quickly run over.
Second win!
And over the course of the week, podcast listeners and live listeners, email the murloc@gmail.com with the subject Second Wind with your opinions on this particular topic. Now, have you experienced the rep grind? Of course you have, because you've been playing WoW. Now, have they overdone it? The Burning Crusade has introduced huge numbers of rep grinds. Now, in my honest opinion, a lot of these rep grinds are very, very good. Some of them aren't. Say, the Consortium rep grind is as bad as any of the other horrible rep grinds used to be. It's one faction and it's a hand-in and quests, and that's all about it. Whereas other factions, specifically the ones based in each zone, I take, for example, Shatar, Thrallmar, Honor Hold, Cenarian Expedition. Those are all gainable via instances, which you were going to be running anyway. Now, you have to run those instances in order to get your heroic keys, which of course unlock the next level of things. Which means that I have quite a few revered factions quite now, which I didn't used to have in the normal game because you didn't really earn that rep that easily. And if you did, there wasn't even a point in having it anyway. A nice piece of gear. There and there. Now there's an awful lot of gear now, a serious amount of gear, and again, the heroic keys make getting to Revered with a faction really important. So, Revered is something now of a default state which you really are expected to reach if you want access to all the content. And Exalted is something you can push for if there is something there that you want. Example, a Feral Druid tank would be insanely stupid not to push for Cenarian Expedition rep, because you can acquire the Earth Warden. That's a good thing. And no matter what, any silly Feral Druid might complain that they nerfed the DPS. Yes, I refer to the people we talked about a couple of weeks ago that think that DPS actually matters for a Feral Druid. Yeah. Morons. There's a lot of rep grinding. Now, is it the true progressive content? Is it something that anyone can do given time? And is it what you want to see? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Give me your opinions. Email them to me over the course of this week. The murloc@gmail.com, subject title Second Wind, to be read out on next week's show. Now, you have approximately 3 minutes and 15 seconds to send me shoutouts before the Nihilum interview kicks off tonight. Grand event indeed. Oh, yes. Gotta love it. Okay. Shout-out time. Email themurloc@gmail.com. PM me on IRC for your shout-outs. Shout-out must go to Bladescope at the Venture Co. from Access Denied for doing it behind the bushes of Shatra with... oh, good lord. Yeah, I don't even want to hear about that. That's just horrific. No. Oh, good lord. I've already got so many PMs I cannot read them. Let's see. Let's reduce a few. Right, okay. A shout-out to Roast Biff for kicking off a huge argument between me and Mrs. Biff about raid class utility with much shouting and waving of arms. That's me not getting any for a week. Thanks a lot. Roast Biff, congratulations. Good lord. Nihilum Dreyer says, play with a good tank and good DPS when a hunter can't stand a chance versus good mages, rogues, and shadow priests. Yep, you're right. Panacea says, shout out to any prot warrior that applies to our guild. That's a Blue Please Guild and Mazugo. We will pay for your transfer. How can I help you? A shout out to emo people, QQ More. That's from Skylaser. A shout out to Zortx, or is it Vortex? Vortex, who skipped school because he didn't do his maths homework. That's from Toasterbot. Good lord in heaven. Shout out to all the Maltese people listening to this show. Very good. That's from Curfew. I like Malta. I've been to Malta. It's awesome. I would recommend there as a holiday location. It's fun and it's nice and warm and people are nice. It's cool. Now, what else? A shout out to Glindy on Lightbringer US for hitting 66. A shout out to the whole Mazugo server, specifically the Prophets Guild. That's from JJ. Shout out to my upcoming podcast, The Geek's Den. That's from someone who didn't even give me a name, so that doesn't really help. A shout out to Forum Trolls for They Must Die. It's from Sniper Crowbar. Shameless shout out to the Get Those Tags to Apply to Our Guild. That's from Kazi. Apply to Blue, please. You'll love it. Shout out to Hectic Distraction, Zekrosh, and myself from Killed in Action on Agamagamagan. Listening to the show while in Karazhan. A shout out from Enigma, or to Enigma, or for Enigma. We don't know, from Vash EU, who will be taking Shade of Around soon and skipping my favourite boss, Ilhoof, who is still need the feral stick from despite my whining. Yeah, Ilhoof is a very, very evil thing. More shout outs. I'm running out of breath. I'm about to collapse. A shout out to Ruin on Outland for downing Magtheridon. That's from Nish. Very well done to you. I've already given a Bladescope shout out. No more to him. It's Bartleby. Yes, Bartleby is doing a podcast called The Geek's Den. It's upcoming. A shout out to the Warlocks on Twilight's Hammer EU. Please stop specking Felguard already. It sucks in PvE. Can we have a shout out to Toasterbot and I didn't skip school? Skeep? What the hell is skeep? Skip school, I was ill from Vortex. What else have we got? We've got like 20 seconds before I have to hand over. Shout out to my guild called Champions of Azeroth on Thorium Brotherhood server. Please PM Alexar for an invite. One last shout out. No, I'm not shouting out to Fallout Boy, they suck. A shout out to the Shatar realm for almost being completely void of people, and a hug from LF Garen. Shout out to the Sauna Guild on Storm Reaver for server first Hydrosity Unstable kill. That's from Keety, well done. And a shout out to myself, and from myself, to Nihilum, who will be interviewed very, very soon. I'm out of here. This has been Blue. Please download our podcast, wcradio.com. I've been Total Biscuit. I'm about to collapse. Good night from me.